Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. RMB here with another look at the never-to-be-made Axanar feature film. This time, I'm going to show you the USS Aries kicking some ass. Before we get to that, I want to show you early concepts for the opening title sequence that was going to be done by the UK's Territory Studio. And they had done visual effects on everything from Avengers Infinity War to the Guardians of the Galaxy to Mile 22 to The Martian to Prometheus. And what I was hoping to do was retell the story of Prelude to Axanar in a very cool graphic sequence for the opening titles of the film, kind of like something Saul Bass might have done, but I also wanted to combine that look with the artwork that Ron Gamble had done for me for the Prelude to Axanar Blu-ray, sort of a feel of like a tactical display, but still we would tell that story of the entire 4 Years' War up to where the Axanar feature film began. So mostly it would be retelling Prelude to bring everybody up to speed. Unfortunately, Territory was only able to do a single pass for those opening titles because we got sued. However, you can see here for the very first time, I don't believe we've shared these anywhere before, of what those titles might have shaped up and might have eventually looked like. It's sort of a shame that this is it. This is the last you'll ever see of what Territory might have done for the opening titles of the Axanar feature. Now, after the main title sequence, and we've journeyed to Earth as we saw in the last documentary, this next sequence was Sonya Alexander jumping onto a Klingon convoy and kicking some ass. Once again, we're playing with the X, Y, and the Z axis. I really wanted that death from above feel. And these unsuspecting Klingon ships, I mean, she comes out of warp right on top of them. And again, I work with the great Tobias Richter. I would send him my ideas, and then he would send me back animatics, and I would sign off on them. And unfortunately, not all of these shots were finished. So some were only in animatic form, which is really too bad because, of course, we got sued. So a lot of some of these shots needed further refinement. But for the most part, like, I love this. I mean, maybe she took out a few D6s a little quickly, but again, look at this shot. I mean, just look at how gorgeous that shot is. I really wanted to play with camera moves and really make these battles dynamic. Like, look at this shot. Here's another shot with another Starfleet ship joining the battle, and of course, it gets taken out. This was my favorite shot in the sequence. Now, in the finished shot, you'll notice it says Aries on the back. That was a mistake. It was really supposed to be Sonya Alexander's ship, the Ajax. But check out this shot. I mean, oh my God, do I love this shot. Again, it should have been the Ajax, but look at this. I mean, the way it strafes. And again, these weren't totally finished, but they were pretty damn good. Now, to come up with these shots, I would be in my office playing with Starship models and shooting video reference or photographic reference, and I would send that reference to Tobias to sort of help him understand where my head was at. So this was a pre-phone video I made. The very first time we see Garth's ship, the Aries. And so after I told Tobias in an email and sent him that video, I said I want it to be a 2001-esque feel where, again, the cameras are moving and swirling around, and we're really conveying the beauty of space and the beauty of space travel, the beauty of Star Trek. And here's his finished shot, and this is scene 11. This was the first animatic and the first visual effect shot Tobias ever finished for the Axanar feature. And here it is. Here's the Aries at warp. And at the time, we would be hearing a piece of Isarian music that Alexander Bornstein was going to write, and we'd be listening to Garth dictating a letter to the parents of one of his fallen crew members who had been killed in a recent skirmish. And this was the first time we saw the Aries in the movie. Now, this next sequence was the first really big special effects action scene in the movie, and the Aries has heard from a Starfleet convoy that they're under attack, so Garth and the crew jump into the fray only to find out they're too late. And I really, again, look at Tobias as how they come out of warp. These little details that Tobias would put in just delighted me to no end. And we're really playing with the X, Y, and the Z axis here. We wanted to get off that space lake, and the Klingons, the D6s, were hiding in the debris field, and they show up and they get into what we call the Dragon Claw maneuver. Again, I thought it would be really cool to have two ships come together like this in a way you haven't seen before, and they would be doubling their yield against the rear quarter of their opponent, so hopefully they would be pummeling the Aries rear deflectors, and I thought it would be something that would be really cool that we haven't seen before. And again, all of these special effect shots, by doing them first, we would be able to design really, really cool live action shots where we're going in and out of the effect sequence to our live action footage and really make everything dynamic and make these moves continue into the live action footage and whip the cameras around and just make it really, really dynamic. But still everything would have a flow to it and it would have an elegance to it. I didn't want shaky cam. I wanted moving cameras, but I wanted it not shaky. And I really just thought we were just going to, it would have been so cool to be able to intercut all this stuff with really elegant live action photography, but that was equally dynamic and interesting, but without having to rely on, I wanted it very, very composed and fluid. That was very, very important to me because, again, I really don't like shaky cam and I really like composed shots, especially in Star Trek. We've seen it beginning in 2009 with a lot of shaky cam and these whip pans and things like that. I wanted this much more elegant. Every shot was going to be elegant in this film. I really wanted to convey a beauty with everything. So here the Aries manages to break the Dragon Claw formation by damaging the D6s. And then we were going to do this incredible, the Icarus maneuver is what you're seeing right here. And I really got it out of Vonda McIntyre's Star Trek novel, The Entropy Effect, which was the first Star Trek novel that was published after the Star Trek The Motion Picture novelization. And in it, Sulu is doing this starship combat, and he was tumbling starships end over end. And I'm like, wow, we've never seen that before, but wouldn't that be cool if we did that? So here Tobias nailed it with this animatic. The dynamic shot I wanted, the Aries flips over and comes right back at you, like some jungle cat jumping on its prey. And that's really what I wanted. Look at this shot. Wouldn't it be great to really a moment where you're going to cheer? And then from this position, the Aries was just going to leap on its prey, which was one of these damaged D6s. And what I wanted to have happen now was something, again, we haven't seen before. I wanted it to use, the Aries would use its phasers and cleave off one of the warp nacelles and just dive straight in. So I told Tobias, no photon torpedoes. Even though we had photon torpedoes at first, maybe we do this thing. I thought this might have been a little too much, where it would flip over, it would hit it with torpedoes, and it would literally flip upside down. And then once that had happened, then the Aries would finish jumping on the D6, but it would use its phasers. Once the D6 was flipped over, it would use its phasers. And I took this picture. I'm like, this is the shot I want. I balanced this model of this D7 on my feet, and I had the Aries coming straight at you. And I said, Tobias, I want it to cleave off the nacelle with its phasers. It's like a cutting torch, and just whack and just cut off, almost like, a gladiator with a sword cutting off a limb. So the Aries would cut off the limb of the D6, which was the warp nacelle, and suddenly engine plasma would start spilling out in space everywhere. And then this would happen. Here's the shot. Again, these shots were not ever quite finished yet. I still had changes, but we got sued. But this is what was going to happen next. The Aries was going to grab the warp nacelle, the cleaved off warp nacelle, and carry it with its tractor beam to the second D6 and basically use kinetic action and throw the warp nacelle into the other D6. No, I'm not going to lie. This is the 8-year-old in me coming out going, what can we do that would just be totally badass, that we haven't seen before? And this is probably something I would have thought was the coolest thing in the world when I was 8. Now, I don't know how scientifically accurate this is, but basically, I wanted to see one starship throw a warp nacelle into the face of another starship and, crash right through the shields. And again, Tobias's first animatic he did, not this one, but the reverse. It was funny because he sent me the first animatic and it cuts off right before what I would call the money shot. And this was the original animatic. The Klingon ship comes around and he cut it off. The animatic stopped. And I was like, wait, what? Dude? And then he sent me this animatic. And now I'm going to share with you an email exchange he and I had after I saw this animatic. So this is what I wrote to Tobias after seeing that animatic. October 12th, 2015, 10:19 a.m. Tobias, just watching these new animatics and 22B made me burst out laughing. Best shot ever. Oh my God, this is so good. Now, again, if I wasn't already having fun, the next part of this scene is that the D6 is going to explode and all of the plasma that's been floating through space ignites. Now, again, I don't know about the scientific accuracy. This was purely the 8-year-old in me going, let's do something kick ass. So the plasma was going to ignite. The plasma that the had been trailing out of the warp nacelle and was flowing out of the damaged ship that had it cleaved off, and the plasma would ignite and it would burn down to the initial D6 until the initial D6 exploded. I mean, I look at this. I mean, come on. Who wouldn't have loved this? Who wouldn't have loved this? And then we had a big exchange about how would this look? How would this work? Now, just to convey the sheer joy I had during this entire process, here's another email exchange between Tobias and I. October 10th, 2015, 9:56 a.m. Tobias, scene 24A. Love to see a steeper angle on the burning plasma, kind of like how V'ger destroyed the Epsilon 9 station in Star Trek The Motion Picture, and bring in the D6 a bit sooner to allow the audience to anticipate what's about to happen. Again, maybe draw out the shot longer. Scene 24B. This shot's so fucking awesome and the audience is going to cheer. My only note here would be to slightly slow up the burning plasma and draw out the moment. All in all, again, such an awesome job you've done here. I think this scene is quite unique in terms of Trek Starship combat. You've created something we really haven't seen before, and I think the fans are going to love it. I certainly know I did. So this is the kind of email I get back from Tobias. October 10th, 2015, 11:12 a.m. Hi, Rob. Thank you. We will tackle those changes on Monday. One question. 24A. Does steeper angle means the camera should be closer to the plasma or further away? I have no idea yet how we're going to do the plasma. So for the moment, I would not like to get closer to it in case the solution we come up with does not work that close. Best wishes, Tobias. Now, you have to understand, I was a kid in a candy store. Literally. I was fulfilling a lifelong dream having these kinds of conversations, talking about making visual effects in what was going to be a Star Trek feature film. I cannot convey to you how excited I was. Then, of course, I'd have to write back to Tobias. October 10th, 2015, 11:41 a.m. Tobias, I was thinking closer to the plasma, the same way the virtual camera follows behind the Genesis effect as it transforms the planet in Wrath of Khan, or how the camera is close to the hull of the Epsilon 9 station as V'ger destroys it. The virtual camera would be just above and following just behind the plasma as it burns, and the flames would be halfway covering the lens, burning back down to the remaining D6. I know you can do it. Then I'd hear back from Tobias. October 11th, 2015, 1:47 a.m. Hi, Rob. Fortunately, we don't know how burning plasma in space looks, so it might work. But do you know the 3 things that are a CG nightmare? Fire, water, hair, fur. Best wishes, Tobias. So you can see, I mean, we'd go back and forth like this. I've got email after email after email on every one of these shots, and I just took such glee and joy in working with Tobias on these things because it was so much fun and a dream truly come true. Now, there are some things that are just staples of Star Trek, and that is a beautiful planetary approach and then having a starship enter into standard orbit around that planet. And in the course of the script, which you can read about, the Aries is going to a secret rendezvous that is interrupted by the Klingons. And this is that shot. It's again, it's a staple of Star Trek, but I wanted it to be beautiful, and Tobias Richter once again delivers. And I like, approaching the planet from the bottom as opposed to the top, and it's a multiple planetary system and moons, and great. What a lot of people don't know is I actually had Axanar composer Alexander Bornstein write a main title theme for the entire film. Yes, he did. And that was because I wanted to give this piece of music to Territory so they could create their opening title sequence around this piece of music. And of course, you can't have a piece of music about a Klingon war unless, of course, you pay homage to the great Jerry Goldsmith's Klingon theme from Star Trek The Motion Picture, which he does. So here you go. For the very first time ever publicly, you can hear Alexander Bornstein's theme to what would have been the Axanar feature film that now never will be. And I've cut the visual effects and the animatics to this music so you could see and get a feel for how it worked with our visuals. Boy, does this really make me sad. But I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching the video.